It's your girl Kaylee. I am here with another episode. One that I have had in the books for a while. If you guys listened to my episode a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how I had some planned in the books that I was really excited about, but time got away from me and I just wasn't able to do it. So this is the one that I had like typed up and ready to go, and I was excited to talk about it with y'all. But life happens and here we are doing it 2 months later. It's about external hard drives and why you should back them up. Like I said, I might be late to the game, but y'all remember there was all the stories going around about SanDisk hard drives, and people their hard drives have been corrupted and they lost all their information and they can't get it back, and like now people are suing SanDisk and it's freaking crazy. Now, honey, this might sound a little harsh, but my first thought was, why didn't you have a backup? Don't get me wrong. I totally get the fear and the stress of losing or damaging or having a hard drive corrupt or whatever was the case. Sometimes it just happens. It's not like you dropped it. I mean, sometimes it is because you dropped it, but sometimes, I should talk about safety. I'm going to talk about safety later because that's a huge thing, guys. But sometimes it is what it is. It just corrupts. It's technology. It just happens, okay? So today I'm going to talk to you about the different types of hard drives and when to use them, how I use them, most importantly, how and why to back them up. I'll give you some like brand recommendations and that kind of stuff too, so stay tuned for that. But before all that, we have our 30 seconds of prep time to get you in the zone. So for today, I want you to think about all of the beautiful moments that you've gotten to photograph in your career. The amazing, love-filled wedding days, the sweet first moments of a newborn session, the joys of a proposal, and just let that bring a smile to your face because you were chosen to do that. Those people trusted you enough to bring you in on some of the most important days of their lives, and that is truly special. So just focus on those happy moments and we'll be back in 30 seconds. Now that you guys have been thinking about how important and special those moments are to your clients and in your clients' lives, don't you feel really good? I mean, I just relived some of my favorite moments over the last few years, like bachelorette parties, newborn sessions, fresh 48 sessions, countless weddings, little in between moments on wedding days, and I feel on top of the world because truly I'm humbled to be in this industry. It feels like a dream. I don't even know how I got so lucky to be able to be a photographer in this business. Like what? So imagine how heartbroken your client or even you will feel when you lose your images because you didn't have a good backup system in place. It literally makes me sick to my stomach. I'm not joking. Like I want to go run and throw up because I would feel so bad if that happened. And it has happened, luckily not for clients, but it has happened to me when I was in college and I was traveling in Europe and stuff. And even before that, like my hard drives were going everywhere and I dropped some, I lost some. It was bad. So I've lost images a lot, and this is why I am such a stickler. I've talked about this at least twice on my podcast before, at least twice. And I'm sure that I've had like in some of the FAQ episodes, people probably have asked like, what's your backup system or something like that? And I've talked about it again. But after this episode, you are going to be a pro at storage and backing up all your files. Trust me, I got you, boo. Okay. So the first and foremost reason I want to talk about hard drives is why you use them, okay? Like most of us are editing on an iPad or a laptop. I personally edit on a desktop, but a lot of us are editing on laptops. Now, regardless if it's a desktop or a laptop, they do not have a lot of storage on the actual computer or the actual laptop. It's very small. Like it might be a terabyte, which is bigger than they used to be, but you will fill up that terabyte in like, depending on how much you shoot, like 2 months, like real quick. You could fill it up real quick. So you will not be able to store, like physically, you will not be able to store all of your images on your laptop or your desktop. There's just no way, unless you literally shoot like 6 times a year, you know? It's just not gonna work. So you have to have some kind of extra storage, and that's what you get a hard drive for, is really just to store all of your images on the external hard drive. And I will go so far as to say, do not keep any of your photos on your computer or your laptop. Don't do it. It's dumb. Because number one, if your computer breaks, your desktop breaks, then like that's another thing, just like your hard drive that you're gonna have to get a backup of, hopefully, and you lost those images. So you wanna have them on an external hard drive. Number two, if you are someone who works on multiple devices like me, like if my images are on a laptop, but then today I decide I want to work on my desktop, that's going to be a pain in the butt. I'm going to have to transfer everything over to my desktop or somehow get it there from one place to the other, and it just takes too long, and I'm obviously on a deadline, so that doesn't work. So it's easier just to be able to switch from device to device. If you are traveling a lot or if you're going to travel, you have all your images already on an external hard drive so that you can just bring your laptop while you're editing, which is what I do. Like I'm usually on my desktop editing, but if I'm going on vacation or if I'm going to a content retreat, I only bring my laptop, but all my images and everything is already ready to go on my externals. So that's another reason you should put them on your externals. But the biggest reason that you should always keep your photos on your external hard drives is because if you keep, like the more information that you keep on your actual computer, whether it be a laptop or a desktop, it's going to slow it down. If you're bogging down your system with all these raw files on top of just like normal documents and other things that you're putting on your computer's gonna run really, really slow, because it's just like, think about it like a can of sardines, right? If you're packing all your stuff on your computer, filling it to the brim, like a can of sardines, there is no room for any movement to happen. So everything's gonna be really sluggish when you're opening up one application to another, and especially when you're running heavy hitting programs like Adobe, Photoshop, and Lightroom, that's gonna be even slower. So definitely want to be keeping your photos on an external hard drive for that reason alone, because nobody wants to sit around and wait for you to hit paste on your settings on Lightroom to paste all your edits, and then like 5 minutes later they finally load, and then you like adjust a crop and it takes 30 seconds. Like that's so unbelievably frustrated. And then you just have created another problem because you're like, oh, my Lightroom's so slow. And it's like, not your Lightroom is not slow, it's your computer, you know? So just making sure that you're keeping all of your photos on your external hard drive. This basically frees up all of the room on your computer. All of the working space on your computer will be open to move freely when you're using things like Lightroom and Photoshop and stuff like that. So that's why you definitely want to use a hard drive. There are different types of hard drives. There is a solid state hard drive, and then there is a hard disk drive, which is like HDD. SSD and HDD are technically how they are hyphenated. A solid state hard drive is the newer, faster, smaller, quicker way of doing things. Think about like USB-C versus like old school USB. Like that's the thing now, is SSDs. They are a lot safer. I really feel like they're tiny, they're more compatible. Like my solid state hard drive is like the palm, it's like the size of the palm of my hand. Not even my fingers, just my palm. It's really skinny too. It's like not even an inch thick. Like it's teeny tiny. It's very fast, and the reason it's called solid state is because there are no moving parts in this hard drive. It's solid, right? Whereas HDD, or the old school ways of doing hard drives, it's kind of like a record player where there's like a little disc inside of the hard drive that's like spinning, and there's a little needle that reads the information. So those are moving parts. So every time you are moving that hard drive around while it's plugged in, because like while it's not plugged in, obviously there's no power, it's not moving, it's fine. But if it's plugged into your laptop and you're like adjusting the way that you're sitting every 5 seconds, or if your dog jumps up or your cat jumps up or your kid jumps up and like bumps the laptop and jostles the connection. First off, it's jostling the connection in your actual laptop. So where you plug your port in, your USB port, those connectors inside of your computer and inside the plug are getting jostled and loosened, and your connection won't be very secure. Second off, it's messing up the needle on the disk in the hard drive. And the more and more that you do either of those things, the more likely you're going to lead to corruption because of all of that. It's like a scratched CD. Like, if you know what a CD is, you can't, it just like skips. Like you can't get that information back. It's just like gone. Sometimes those files are corrupted. So you definitely, when you are using this is kind of like a safety thing when you are using a hard disk drive, so regular old school HDD, you don't want to move as much as possible. Like even if you're working on a laptop, still try to work at a table so that your connectors are flat and even and your disk is flat and even and you're not jostling your computer all around. And like, I mean, I know sometimes I used to work in my bed and my laptop was up on my knees and I was laying on my back and my external hard drive was just like dangling and like you could see the tension on the cord just like pulling down. And like I look back at that now and I'm just like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Because I just know how fragile these things are. So just try not to move when you're using your external hard drives. So that's the other reason I just prefer editing on a desktop anyways, is because I'm like, okay, this is my designated workspace, my designated work area. My mental health likes that, so I'm not like working on the couch and working in the bed, and then those areas become associated with work and stress, and so I just try to keep those areas separate. So I like having a designated work area, and I also like the fact that I'm being very mindful of my USB connectors and everything. Nothing's moving around, okay? And then also unplugging everything when you move, when you're like moving around. So like say if you're, or when you're done or whatever, when you close your laptop, eject your hard drive first. Always eject your hard drive. Eject, eject, eject. So you can do this on your desktop by like finding a little icon for your hard drive and just right clicking it and hit eject, whatever the name of your hard drive is. And then wait till that icon goes away. And then you can take the cord out from your computer. Or if you're a Mac user, it's in your Finder. You can see it on the little sidebar. You can also do it that way. There's a little eject icon and you just click that. And then wait till the name goes away and you can pull your cord out. So this again, it's kind of like hanging up a phone call. You know what I mean? Like if you, and like saying bye, right? If you are just in the middle of a conversation and all of a sudden the line goes dead, you're like, wait, what? Did I lose them? What happened? What do I need to call them back? Are they gonna call me back? Like, did their phone die? What just happened? And so like things just kind of get miscommunicated and lost, right? Okay, this is a really terrible analogy. I'm coming up with it on the spot, but but that's kind of what I think about versus like saying goodbye and they say bye and then you hang up. Like that's what you're doing with your hard drive. It's like when you're ejecting it. When you eject it, you basically are telling your computer, I'm done with this. Everything is where it needs to be, and kind of like save it now and then eject it. And it's just kind of like a clean break basically, versus just like shutting your laptop is like, again, like what? Like you just risk losing files that way because it's like, basically your software, your system is still working on that whatever session you were just working on. Like that's where the disk was working at, like the little needle was working on that little section of the disk. And if you just close your laptop, it like stops and it's like, you know, the needle like stops inside there. And it's like, you could risk damaging the files basically versus like shutting it down is like a proper way to say goodbye. That was terrible. I'm very sorry. Thank you for sticking with me through that. But also, so like I said, just ejecting your hard drive before you like close your computer or turn your computer off or whatever it is you're doing. But also when you are traveling or moving from room to room or whatever it is, just make sure you unplug not only your hard drive from your laptop or your computer, but unplug the cord from the hard drive as well. I know sometimes people will just keep the cord plugged into the hard drive and like throw the hard drive in a bag with their laptop and leave. And I cringe when that happens because just like I said earlier, like your connectors and that USB-C, that's literally the only way that your computer's gonna be able to read your hard drive is through those connectors. You're damaging that every single time it's in your bag, jostling around, getting moved and getting hit by your lipstick and your phone and all this other shit, right? So you want to make sure that that is disconnected so that when you are traveling around, like heck, I literally have the boxes. I keep the boxes for my hard drives and if I ever take them anywhere, I literally pack them up in the box with the cords and the little protective plastic gear and everything that comes in there. Like I am very anal about this because I do not want to lose any information. It's just protection. It's just like these things are going to last longer if you take care of them better. So those are like my safety tips, which is kind of unrelated to this episode, but I felt like it's important to share. There is another type of hard drive. So we have solid state and hard disk drive. Technically it's a hard disk drive, but there is like desktop versions of your hard drives that are bigger. So they usually store more information, which is good. Like my solid state hard drive is only 2 terabytes, and then I have a bunch of hard disk drives that are 2 terabytes as well. But then I have a couple desktop drives that are 4 terabytes, 6 terabyte, and I have one that's plugged in that I work off of mostly that is 16 terabytes. So these are, again, they're hard disk drives, so they should not be moved around. Definitely not moved around. They're also just big. Like, why would you want to move around with them? But they are meant for more like desktop working. Like, keep it on your desktop, plug it in, use it while you're not moving around. Even if you're working on a laptop, like you just can still have a desk or a table, and it's like you just keep it on there while you're working. So that's another type of hard drive you can get, but it really just depends. I have all 3 because I like all 3. I mostly use my solid state hard drive and my big desktop things now because they just have more storage. And rather than having like a bunch of 2 terabyte smaller hard drives, I just got the big one. I just got the big boy. It's fine. Now, as far as brands go, there are some trustworthy brands out there and there are some non-trustworthy brands out there. I have never liked SanDisk. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never liked SanDisk, which is ironic because I love their memory cards. I love their memory cards. I use their memory cards all the time. But as far as hard drives go, I mean, this was like 2009 when it was like you were very limited with your options as far as external hard drives go. I had like Seagate, WD, Toshiba, like, you know, brands that you guys have probably never heard of. I just did not like SanDisk. I've had one corrupt on me and I can't remember if that was one of the ones I could not get my information back from because it's happened to me a couple times. I think it's literally only happened to me twice, but it was not like, I just did not like SanDisk, and I don't like the way they look, and it's fine. So I know a lot of people use the SanDisk solid state hard drives because of the price point. It is a little bit more cheaper than the brand that I recommend. So, and I've heard a lot of people who don't have problems with that either. So you can keep doing your thing and use them, just be very careful and back it up, which we're getting into later, but just, you know, practice all those safety rules no matter what brand you're using, and you should be good. And if you have a backup, you should be good. So brands necessarily don't matter as much as long as you have that backup system in place. But the one that I really, really, really love is G Drive, like the letter G. I've been using G Drives since probably 2013 or 14, and that's all I buy now. I have bought one SanDisk, and that is, not SanDisk, wow. I can't even remember the name of it. I'll have to look at it. But it's the one I use on my big desktop right now, and I just bought it for the first time in like June. And so far so good, but I just got it because it's a desktop, it's not moving around, it's fine, and I do back it up, so I'm not worried about it if it does crash. Don't want that to happen. Not saying like bring it on technology, but please don't. But I am fine if it does happen. But anyway, so G Drives are the brands I have. I have a solid state hard drive from G Drive. I have a hard disk drive from G Drive. Some of my other desktop hard drives that I have are G Drive, like the 4 and the 6 terabytes that I have. Those are G Drives. They just got to be a little bit more expensive, and like for getting like a 16 terabyte version of the G Drives, it was a little bit more pricey than getting the one that I have. So that's the only downfall about G Drives, but I will tell you, I have dropped a hard disk drive because that's all I used at the time. This was like 2015 when I was traveling abroad in France, and we were in these old buildings that were made of stone. If you've ever been in France, like south of France, wine country France, it's like old, historic, beautiful everywhere. So we were literally learning in like a old village town, basically. All of the buildings, all of the dorms, everything was just like this beautiful stone village. And we were in like the basement of one of them because that's where all the computers were, and cement floor, straight up cement floor. This was 2015, so I didn't have a solid state hard drive. I only had a hard disk drive, the one with the little disk inside of it. Dropped it on the cement floor, just like it was setting, like I had my laptop propped in my elbow like a book, like I was about to leave, and I was talking to someone, and the disk just slid, like the hard drive just slid off the top of my laptop onto the floor, and I cried. I cried, because that was all of the photos I had been taking while I was studying abroad. So that sucked. But I was able to take it to a company who specializes in information restoration. That sounds so funny. Whatever they're called, recovery, softwares, and they were able to get all of that information back for me. Whereas when this happened, like whenever that was 3 years earlier with a different brand, I think this was the SanDisk that I had, or maybe it was the Toshiba that I dropped, and it wasn't on cement floor, I think it was on carpet, but I still dropped it and they couldn't get anything back. So G drives have just stood the test of time. They've literally withstood cement floors. They are pricey, but they are worth it to me because I think about it as a long-term investment for my business, not just like I just want to get the cheapest thing I can, because then you end up buying like 6 more of them because they keep breaking, if that makes sense. Or paying for it in other ways, like paying for recovery softwares or having to refund a client because you lost their photos, things like that. So kind of like perspective, right? So those are like, there's a bunch of brands out there. Like I said, I don't necessarily think brands matter. You can find your fave and stick to it, and that's totally fine. G drives are my favorite, but I would try to stick to the main brands that people are using nowadays. Like if you're going on Amazon and looking at the best sellers, don't get any of those random sketchy ass Amazon seller people. Like, don't do that. Those are weird. So that's what I recommend. But as far as backing up your hard drives, this is what's important, y'all, because it doesn't matter if you have a hard drive and you get the most expensive kind and you take the best care of it and you don't jostle it around, you don't move it, and you properly eject it, and all of the things that I was just talking about, you should still have a backup system in place. So what does this look like? You can get like an identical version of the hard drives that you use. Like some of my old system, they don't make these anymore, but they have like a rose gold color hard drive, and they have like a light gray color hard drive, and then they have like a dark gray color hard drive. And so whenever I ordered a new hard drive, like when I was running out of space, when I filled up my 2 terabyte hard drive, I would order 2 of the same color. So I'd order 2 new rose gold hard drives, and then one would be labeled like the original, and then one would be labeled the backup. And then when that one filled up, I'd order 2 of the dark gray hard drives, and then one would be labeled the original and one would be labeled the backup. And so every month or 2 weeks, or depending on how often you're shooting, you would basically plug in your backup, drag all your new files over to that backup hard drive. So you only have to keep your original, like your main hard drive out, and then you just get your backup hard drive out every couple weeks or every month or whatever, and just drag the files over. I keep that backup at my mom's house because I'm always paranoid, like if we have a fire or something like that and we can't get out of here, I can't save all my hard drives and all my cameras and like my personal stuff, like my dog and my cat and my husband, So I want to be able to focus on those kinds of things that are irreplaceable, knowing that I have a backup of my hard drive at my mom's house that I can just go get, and now that one becomes my main hard drive. And then if I wanted to, I could go and get another copy of the hard drive that I just lost and replace it by basically copying and pasting all that information back over onto the new hard drive that I'm replacing with the old one. Does that make any sense? I might have just lost you there. But essentially, that's what I would do. And so then I'm back to having 2 hard drives, if that makes sense. Maybe I caught you up just by saying that. But yeah, so that's what I would do for the like actual physical hard drives. That is an option. I even have that of like my solid state hard drive. I even have that of like my big desktop drive. I have an extra copy of all of those that's at her house. And I don't ever, once they're filled, I don't have to touch them again. Because they're filled, they're done, they stay there. But like the ones that I'm currently filling, I have to get from her every few weeks whenever I see her to just keep uploading new information onto it, which she loves because then I get to hang out with her. So she's like my best friend, so it's fine. But yeah, so that's the only downfall of having 2 like physical hard drives, is that you're going to have to be reminding yourself to back up these photos like however so often, again depending on how often. If you're shooting every day, then I would probably back it up every couple weeks. But if you're only shooting like twice a week, then maybe you could get away with only backing it up like once a month. But you can go even farther than that, and this is what I recommend, is by having an online cloud-based backup system. I personally use Backblaze. I've been using them since 2021. They are amazing. It is super easy, super like user-friendly. I looked for months to find the perfect backup system because if you've looked into it at all, so many like cloud systems are like, they charge out the wazoo for the amount of storage that a professional full-time photographer needs. Like when I was going through these 2 terabyte hard drives, I probably bought like 4 of them a year. So that's like at least 8 terabytes a year that I was going through, but I needed to keep those 8 terabytes from last year too. So then I was adding to that. And if I'm trying to pay for like 16 terabytes worth of storage, like that is gonna be really expensive for a lot of places. So I wanted to find something that was like more in like lower budget, hopefully unlimited storage. But also a lot of places didn't store raw photos, and that's all I shoot is like raw photos, right? So they stored like PDFs or documents or Excel spreadsheets or JPEGs or whatever, and that was great, but I don't do JPEGs. Like if I exported every single image as a JPEG, cool, but that also would take so much more time. So I just wanted something that would work for RAWs. The other sticky situation was that I needed something to help actually back up my external hard drives as well, because a lot of other cloud systems back up your computer and that's it, but they don't back up like what you plug into your computer. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, I don't keep any images on my actual computer. They're all on my external hard drives. So I needed something that can back up external hard drives as well, because that's where all my raw photos were. So that's when I found Backblaze. It is amazing. I love it. It's online based. You do download a program to your computer, which just makes it easier because it will automatically check for backups that you need to run. It's pretty straightforward. You can choose how often you want it to like check your stuff for backups. The only downfall is that you do have to plug in your external hard drives every 30 days in order to keep the backups like online, basically. But like the initial backup might take like 4 hours for it to load onto the system. But once you plug it in after that, like I just make it the last Friday of every month, I plug in my hard drives, and I basically leave it in for like 30 minutes to an hour, and then you can see like the date will refresh, like, oh, backed up today. And I'm like, okay, cool, eject, and then I put in another one. So, and I just do that while I'm working because it just goes in the background. So I just, every time I get up to go refill my water or let the dog out or something like that, I'll just grab the next hard drive and do it again. So it's really not that hard because you don't have to push a button, you don't have to do anything. You literally just plug in your hard drive, eject your hard drive, take it out, and plug in the next one. And it's just so easy. I mean, it's been a while since I paid for it because I think I paid for like 2 years, or 3 years when I signed up. So it was like $110 or something like that. So pricing might have changed, but it's for unlimited and it's amazing and I love it and you should totally check it out. There are other softwares out there that you can use, like Apple has theirs, obviously, Google Drive, Dropbox. There's other random brands out there too that you could use, but I just love the accessibility that Backblaze has and how easy it is to use, and it can't be beat. I just really like it. So that is the other thing. Basically what it does is like, so it's obviously backing things up to your cloud, and you can go online and literally see all your files. You can see all of your hard drives. It does back up your computer too. And you could go in and you see exactly how everything was structured and organized, just like you would as if you were looking on your actual hard drive. Like if your actual hard drive was plugged in and you were looking through how your files were sorted, it's gonna look exactly like that in Backblaze. So it's so easy to understand. If you need to download your stuff, you can literally just download it straight from there. If it's like a butt ton of information, then they can send you a drive or something like that, like a USB flash drive. But it's really nice, honestly, and I feel safe knowing that everything is backed up on the cloud as well as a second hard drive. That seems a little insane to have 3 external hard drives, but you would not believe the amount of times that I've like panicked because like something's going wrong or I can't find something or whatever, and I'm like, you know what, it's okay, I got a backup. Or if I'm like trying to empty out my trash on my computer and I'm like, wait, what if I delete, you know, that internal panic we all have as photographers. Like, what if I accidentally delete these and it's the only raw photos that I have, somehow they got emptied into my trash can and then I'm totally screwed. It's like, okay, cool, then I'll just pull out one of my external hard drives or go on Backblaze and download the raw photos from there because they were there at one point. How else would I have edited them? So yeah, that is my spiel again, and I probably will talk about it multiple more times because it is a passion of mine, if you cannot tell, to have all of these different hard drives available to yourself and to your business to make sure that you're protected. So I hope it helps. I hope it doesn't overwhelm you, but just make sure you're being smart. Like we said at the very beginning of the episode, these moments that we're capturing for our clients are important and they are one-time only events. You can't recreate them. So if you lose images, that's really scary and I would hate that for you. So if you are in the business of documenting memories, you need to be in the business of protecting and backing up those memories as well. So get to it, be smart about it. Don't just cheap out because you don't want to pay for it. I understand it takes time, but just slowly start the process because you're going to regret it if you lose some images and upset some clients and break your own heart in the process. At least I'm just speaking from experience. So anyways, I hope that helps. I'll get off my soapbox and I'll talk to you next week.